Good morning and welcome to another Hump Day Hallelujah. I'm Pastor Scott coming to you from Ascension Lutheran Church in Citrus Heights. And during the season of Lent, we didn't have these Hump Day Hallelujahs, so we skipped 7 of them because we were providing you with daily videos for the entire season of Lent. 40 daily videos, not including Sundays. And now during the season of Easter, these Hump Day Hallelujahs have resumed, but they're going to be different than they were prior to Lent. For these next 7 weeks, these next 7 Wednesdays, you're not going to be hearing from me. You're going to be hearing from other members of the congregation as they share a little bit about their story. Our theme during Lent was God's story, our story. And now that we have moved through Lent into the season of Easter, we're going to hear from you, other members of this congregation who are going to share how God's story has impacted their story. And they're going to share a bit about that with you in these moments each Wednesday. I hope you enjoy hearing these stories. I hope you appreciate the courage that these folks are displaying by sharing a part of themselves and a part of their story and their faith journey. And we will resume the typical traditional Hump Day Hallelujahs after Pentecost. Thanks for spending a part of this day with me and with the person who's going to be sharing with us today. Take care.
Good morning. My name is Irvin Lowndes, although only my immediate family calls me Irvin. Everybody else calls me Irv. So I'm Irv. I'm going to talk about my life as a choir member. When I was about 8, I joined the children's choir at Grace Lutheran Church in Norristown. It's where my grandparents had been going to church, and then my parents going to church, and then the rest of our family. So I went, like I said, I went in the children's choir. Now at Grace at that time, and for quite a while afterwards, they had 3 services. There was a Matin service, and while the children were in Sunday school, and then the adults went to Sunday school, and the children came into the sanctuary and had a service. And then later, there was the service. So the children sang at the children's service. The Matin service was for, if you were confirmed, you then joined the youth choir, and they sang at the Matin service. And then the adults, after you graduate high school, you get to join the adult class choir, and they sang at the service. So that's been my trajectory. And I stayed in the adult choir all through after graduating high school, and through work and so forth. After high school, I didn't go to college right away. I went to a tech school, learned how to repair television and so forth. And then in February of '53, I was drafted to go to the Army. Spent my 2 years. And of course, I didn't go to much church during the Army because at camp. But then the second year of my term, I was sent to Panama, and there I went to the on-base, and was joined the choir in the on-base chapel. And then back after that, back home again, back to the choir. Not too long after, I discovered a young lady in the choir. And we got familiar, and we got married in '58. And I was working as an engineer after I got out to come back, a technician actually for Univac. I ended up working with an engineer, and he said, you know, you should go to college. I said, I can't go to college. I'm married. I just have a young daughter. She's only a year old, not even a year old. He said, yes, you can go to college at night at Drexel. So I did. I went to Drexel 3 nights a week. 3 nights a week for 8 years. I got my engineering degree. All the time still going into choir when I didn't have classes on Thursday, of course. And I worked then at Univac for quite a while, and then I moved to another company and got very specialized as an engineer. The company I was working with finally got to a point where they didn't need my expertise anymore. And so I was downsized. And I was out of work. And being specialized, I had a very hard time looking for a job because nobody wanted my specific specialty. I got a phone call from a fellow I had worked with in Pennsylvania. He was in California. He was working for a company, and they had a problem, and I was the specialist that could solve that problem. And they wanted me to come out to California for 6 weeks and solve their problem. I did. I spent 8 weeks. Went back to Pennsylvania with a job offer in my pocket. My wife had been working, she had gone to college, and she was working as in retail. And at that point, she had been an assistant store manager of a chain of stores. And so when I got back, she was still working, and she met me for dinner. And she said, I have something to tell you. And so, oh, we're finished. Tell me now. No, I'll wait till later dinner. No, tell me now. And she said, let's just be friends. So I was there with a job offer for California with my intentions to take it. I took my 2 weeks in Pennsylvania, and I flew to California. During that 2 weeks, I arranged for divorce. I arranged to have my house sold, and the kids had to figure out what they're going to do until it was sold and what they're going to do afterwards. I went to California. I got the job, to take the job full time. I flew back at Thanksgiving that year to arrange for the furniture and stuff I wanted shipped, and I went back to California. And then in September, of course, I joined the choir in California. And we sat at the back of the church in pews, 3 pews. The choir was a small church, small choir. Behind me were the basses, and my row was the tenors, 2 of us, 3 of us. And in front of us was the women. And in front of me were the altos. One of the altos, turns out, was a widow, a very attractive widow. So, not only that, my job when I got to California was to work, was to find a house, which I did, rented a house. Now I had a young lady I was interested in, and we got together, and we got married. So that, and she was in the choir, so the 2 of us were in the choir. And we lived in California, in LA, for 10 years. She had been there quite a while. And then she was in the school district in charge of LA's testing. And she kept working with the people in the state office of education, and they kept asking her to come up to Sacramento to work. And she would say no. And she mentioned it one day, and I said, Linda, your mother's not getting any younger, and she lives in Sacramento. Take the job. So she did. We moved to Sacramento, looked for church, and here we are in Ascension. So, what's my story? That part of my story. I have spent at the Ascension, I got to age 70 and my voice died. You can tell. Well, I can't sing. You can tell from what I'm saying, I can't sing. So that happened around age 70. But for more than 60 years, I spent telling God's story, singing God's story.